Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Money Talk with Melanie. I am your business diva, Melanie Collette, broadcasting live via SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio from what is normally beautiful Cape May, New Jersey, but today is dreary, thunderstorm-ridden Cape May, New Jersey. Cape May, New Jersey today. And welcome to the Facey Chat, Michael, Bill, Tony, Daniel, Doug, Jim, and Dwight. Where are my ladies in the house?
I'm here.
Where are y'all at? Oh, there's Anne Marie. There we go. My guest today is a returning guest, author and speaker Laura Vivian. She's going to talk to us today about the title of the talk is Uber Dollars and Cents. And the reason why I wanted to talk to her, you guys might be thinking, like, why would you be talking about this on a money show? Well, here's why. I'm sure you all are familiar with the name Uber. It's a household name at this point, but I don't know if you all know quite how popular it is. It's worldwide. It's valued at $70 billion and operates at 630 cities worldwide. They provide 15 million rides a day, but they do have a problem. 103 Uber drivers have been accused of sexual assault or abuse. That's a problem. That's a big problem. And thank you, Tim. I appreciate that. Hello, Wendell. Hello, Anne-Marie. You know, as someone who uses Uber and Lyft often myself, I found that rather alarming. Just saying. And no friends who do. Like, whenever I'm in the city, you guys know I hang out in DC and New York fairly often, and that's all I use is Uber or Lyft, because who wants to be bothered with all that traffic?
Exactly.
But yeah, so that's why we're going to talk with Laura Vivian, who is uniquely qualified to discuss this topic. So I'm looking forward to speaking with her about that. But before we do, a little bit of housekeeping and a little bit of news. Lots going on in the news today. Wow, wow, wow. If you're not following me on Twitter, first of all, shame on you. But you can do so at MoneyTalkMel on Twitter. If you're feeling really brave, hey, Kathy Stitt. If you're feeling really brave and you want to follow my political musings, you may do so at NJGOPDiva on Twitter. And of course, the Facebook page is at Money Talk with Melanie. If you would like to be a guest on a show, or you have a suggestion of a guest, feel free to inbox message me and say, I think this person would be a great guest, and hook me up. I will tell you that many of the great guests that I get on the show is like not because of my own awesomeness. No, I'm kidding. But seriously, really not. But because people have been very kind in connecting me with good people like Laura. Eaton Gordon Hill connected me and Laura, and I have lots of Facebook friends and lots of associates and connections that connect me with great people that they think would be good for the show. So if you know anybody, please feel free to connect us. I do have a kind of a criteria. I would not say that it's particularly strict, and occasionally I break that criteria if I feel as though the topic is important enough, or that the person is knowledgeable enough. But generally, I go with politicos, CEOs, authors, that kind of thing. Like if you're running something, you know what I'm saying? So entrepreneurs, I don't know if I said that, small business owners, things like that. But like I said, if you have an area of expertise and you're an expert, then certainly you might be someone I want to talk to about either business or finance. So feel free to message me on Facebook, or you can email me. The email address is moneytalkwithmelanie@gmail.com. Very simple. Now, let's check out the news, because there is quite a bit there today. It is 6 states have announced, 6 more states I actually should say, have announced that they're going to be suing Purdue Pharma. And this is the company that makes OxyContin. And this is the drug maker that has been fueling the opioid epidemic. And so the states that were added were Texas, Florida, Nevada, North Carolina, Tennessee, and North Dakota. And what they're saying is that what they're accusing the drug maker of is fueling the opioid epidemic by misleading marketing. And you know, the whole situation is really ugly with those opioids. And so many people have lost their lives because of that addiction, and the states are suing the company. And here's the thing that's also happening. I don't know if, hey, Donna McCleary and Ellen and Carl, here in the state of New Jersey, they have really, and they've been doing this for years, really tightening the reins from a legal perspective on like how much of certain drugs you can get. And it's just, in a way, like I had a relative who had just had dental surgery and she was in a lot of pain. And the doctor would only give her a certain amount. And she was kind of like, you know, she felt some type of way because she's like, you know, I'm literally in pain. I've never had a problem with drugs. And I'm being treated like I'm some type of addict when I just had surgery. And the doctor was like, take some Tylenol. You know, so there's like two sides to it. I don't know. It's a mess, but I'm glad they're suing. And if that company is actually doing what they're being accused of, then yeah, they need to pay, because many people have become addicted and lost their lives. And you know, there's a big difference, in my opinion, between, you know, becoming addicted because, you know, you tried some street drug and, you know, got unlucky and it was laced with something, and your doctor prescribing something. You know what I mean? I think that's a little bit different kind of addiction. But I'm not going to start that argument now because I know Donna McCleary is probably going to start yelling at me. And welcome to the Facey Chat, Carrie and John Burnett. Welcome. Okay, what else is going on? And actually, Fox News, you know, I listened to Fox on satellite on my way home today, and I did not hear anything about this story, that they reached a $10 million settlement with 18 current and former employees in an effort to assuage some human resource grievances. That's a lot of money, including racial and gender discrimination. Now, Fox, you know I love y'all. Like, don't let the fact that I'm reporting this affect any, you know, if you think about having me on the show to comment on anything. Like, it's nothing against you. I'm just reporting the news. That's all I'm saying. Like you would do, fair and balanced. No, but seriously, that's a lot of money, and that's a huge lawsuit. Just saying. Hey, Keith Little, welcome to the Facey Chat. So that's a little bit. I hate to think that actually goes on. Like, I live in a world where, like, yes, I know racism exists, but I'd like to think that it doesn't happen nearly, like, it's not systemic. That's what I'd like to believe. I've been a victim of racism, of course. I've been a victim of sexism, of course. I'd like to think that it is not to the, you know, prevailing to the tune of $10 million settlements at a major media company. I'd like to think that, but yeah, that's just the ugly thing. So, and I didn't hear that reported today. And another, according to LinkedIn, one of my favorite companies, Apple. You guys know I'm a huge Apple fan, and no offense to when did I start doing that? No offense to those of you who use Android products, but we all know that in the Android Apple war, that Apple is a superior product. I don't know how many times I have to tell you people that. No, but I just want people to start fighting in the Facebook chat. That's all. But Apple is actually becoming a forerunner in a driverless car race. That's what I wanted to tell you about that. And I'm telling you, I'm not a real big fan of driverless cars because I think it's because I'm old and I'm like, you need somebody behind the wheel of the car. But if Apple does it, I might get me an iCar. I'm just saying. I might have to get myself an iCar because it'll probably sync up with my MacBook and my iPhone and my iPad. So I have to have it. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette. My guest today is Laura Vivian. We're going to talk about Uber dollars and cents in just a few moments on the other side of the break.
Sponsored by the Tri-County Liberty Coalition. One, President Trump showed real leadership, wisdom, and moxie by pulling America out of the Obama executive order nuclear deal with Iran. Hello, I'm Ron Edwards. On today's page from the Edwards Notebook. For 39 years, Iran has been shouting death to America and Israel. Iran has for too long been given free reign by American presidents, while that Islamic nation took over a U.S. embassy, financially supported Hezbollah, and blew up a U.S. Marine base. More recently, Iran frantically worked to try and produce nuclear missiles, which they threatened to utilize to blow up targets in both the United States and Israel. So along came President Obama, who through executive order enacted a nuclear arms deal without congressional approval, nor agreed to by Iran's neighbors. If that deal were allowed to run its course, Iran would be free and clear to produce nuclear weapons after a decade. One has to wonder, since inspectors were prevented from making sure that Iran stuck to the so-called agreement, if they weren't still creating nuclear weapons. The days of America leading from behind are over. The world will benefit from the wisdom of getting out of the deal and slapping a tough economic sanction on Iran. I'm Ron Edwards. Blowing away the myths and revealing the truth. You can continue to blow away the myths with Ron Edwards on theronedwards.com. Sponsored by the Tri-County Liberty Coalition.
Ron Edwards, the new voice of America. Who likes paying taxes? Nobody. That's why Eva Rosenberg from TaxMama.com wants you to pay less of them. Read Small Business Taxes Made Easy and learn how legally hiring your spouse and children can slash your taxes. Learn how to set up a business plan that minimizes taxes, the benefits of setting up an exit plan, how to avoid getting audited, and how to legally increase your deductible expenses with better record-keeping techniques. Don't let the IRS squeeze you out of every penny. Visit TaxMama.com. Click on Ask a Tax Question to get free answers to your tax and business questions. That's TaxMama.com.
My name is David Barnett, and I've been helping people buy and sell small and medium-sized businesses since 2008. So far this year, I've gone on 5 vacations. It's because I've got my own business. When you get tired of being managed by someone else and you decide that business ownership is right for you without the risk of starting your own unproven enterprise, then come over to businessbuyeradvantage.com. There are over 100 YouTube videos on buying and selling businesses that you can watch for free. That's businessbuyeradvantage.com.
And we're back. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette, and my guest today is Laura Vivian. She is going to talk to us about Uber dollars and cents. Laura, are you wearing earbuds or shuffling papers? I hear like
No.
Okay, I hear like scratching or scraping or something. Okay,
No.
could be me.
Huh.
Could be me. I started hearing it about midway through the open. So.
Is it gone now?
Yep.
I turned off my Wi-Fi. Huh. Okay.
There it is. Oh, now I know what it is. Good to know. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt like that, but I know it'll come through on the broadcast. Okay. So anyway, the reason why first of all, before we even go through that, the reason why I'm talking about that, so some people who just joined us, is because 103 people, 103 Uber drivers are being accused of sexual assault or abuse. And that is, that's a problem. And if you remember my guest, Laura Vivian, she's returning. She's the woman, the author and speaker who wrote the book, This Should Have Never Happened. And if you don't recall that edition of Money Talk with Melanie, it is definitely worth going back and listening to and purchasing the book. It is an absolutely heartbreaking, riveting story, but also a story of triumph. So you need to go back and read it. But today, she's talking to us about this topic of sexual assault and Uber. Now, the story that I saw was in CNN, CNN.com, about the Uber drivers, but my guess is that this also happens with Lyft as well. First, what do you think about that, Laura?
Yes, you're right. There was 103 Uber drivers in 20 major cities reported, but there were also 18 Lyft drivers in this report that came out in CNN in April of this year. So yes, it is a problem with both companies. Of course, Uber has a much larger share of the market, so they're going to have more reports against them.
True, very true. That is really, and the whole problem with this situation is that usually when you call an Uber, we were talking about it before we went on the air, usually when you call an Uber, that's kind of like the point. Like the point is that that you're probably, not sober enough to drive. And so you call an Uber or a Lyft so that you can get home safely, so that you can avoid, a sexual assault.
Exactly. That's what this report said, is a significant number of these people that were abused were drinking or inebriated. We tell somebody, okay, now get a ride home. Make sure you have a ride lined up. I know when a friend of mine went out on New Year's Eve, the first thing I said was, do you have a ride? And this person said yes, and she had a ride lined up. So you go, because Uber's, their brand marketing is actually, let's see here, it's called Safe Driver Home. And so that means that they want you to feel 100% safe. Safe Ride Home. They want you to feel 100% safe. But if you think about it, Melanie, you're getting in the car, you're hitchhiking with strangers.
You're right about that. You're right about that. You are. And that occurs to me. But they also, I was going to say we know who they are. You know what I mean? Like, you know who the person is. So, like, to me, my theory has always been, why would somebody commit a crime like that, especially when it's that serious, knowing, like, we know exactly who you are and exactly what time you were with that person because it's recorded. You know what I mean? So, like, that's the part that doesn't make sense to me.
One of these cases that it talks about is kind of what you're saying. This woman had been drinking and she passed out in the back seat. And she said she woke up later to the Uber driver on top of her, raping her. The police arrested the man. He's 54-year-old John David Sanchez. And they found video on his computer dating back at least 5 years, showing that he'd been doing this, not just to her, to other women. So they took him to court. Well, he pleaded not guilty to sexual battery and awaits trial, but he admitted that he'd done something wrong.
But you know what? And this is the problem with this particular area of law. It's a big problem. And I'm going to tell you about a comment in the chat too. But this is the big problem with this particular area of law. You know why he pled not guilty? Because you know why? Because he knows there's a pretty good chance he'll beat it. So why not plead not guilty?
Exactly.
They're incredibly hard. Yep, they're incredibly hard to prove. And as I have been talking about, and I know some men on the chat and probably listening to the show right now are going to roll their eyes, but I don't care. Some 90% of sexual assaults go unreported. That's ridiculous.
Absolutely.
So these are the ones that were reported. My guess is there probably were more that were not reported. Now, now here's the other dicey part of this, and I really want to know what you think of this, Laura. Kevin in the chat, it says there's two sides to every story. And, and there is, right? And he says, drivers have strangers get into their vehicles. He's been an Uber driver before, by the way. I didn't know that. I would imagine that happens to them too, that they get stuck up and stuff like that.
I'm sure they do. And maybe one case out of how many, 100, could be some woman coming onto the driver. I mean, that's kind of what I hear him saying, right?
Right.
But what about the other women that are not being protected? Are we going to give these idiots, are we going to give them an excuse by saying it's okay? Because, she was drunk, and I bet she She was asking for it. Oh, that makes me mad when I hear that.
Oh, it makes me mad too. It's
So
like,
that's,
well,
I guess that's kind of the thing is it kind of is the same thing. It's not at all, before I say this, it is not at all like child abuse. The reason that I compare the two slightly, though, is because you have a victim coming forward and saying that somebody has done this to them. You have got to pay attention. Don't just, say, oh, she had it coming. She was drunk. She should have known better. Well, guess what? It does not give him a right to molest her or to rape her.
There are a lot of men. I had a thread on my Facebook page about a month ago, maybe a little longer ago than that talked about that very thing. And I'm going to be honest with you, I was floored by the number of men that were like, well, what did you think was going to happen? She shouldn't have been. And I'm like, really? Christians? And while, listen, I don't disagree that nowadays we have to make, as women, we have to make good, solid decisions about how we operate. Okay. But that doesn't absolve the criminal of the crime. It just doesn't. But it was really upsetting to me to see that, like I said, particularly Christian men, to see them say that, one person said, one person said, I have 4 female friends that have been sexually assaulted. 3 of them could have been prevented if they had been more, yeah. He was dead
so
serious.
the men that did this had nothing to do with it. The men that did this had nothing to do with it.
No, they had everything to do with it.
Poor things were in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah, if they had made better decisions, it would have never happened. I was just like, wow. No.
No.
Yeah.
Well, and getting back to Uber, okay, you can have a woman in your back seat taking her home, and she may be, making comments. She may say, oh, good looking, or whatever it is she's saying. Your responsibility as a professional is to get her home safely. And that's the bottom line on this. And the women, when they holler that they've been molested, they've been raped, they don't remember what happened. It doesn't excuse the fact that they were drunk because they were trusting that driver. That's the bottom line. They trust the driver.
It's true. Now, Kevin was saying that when he drove for Uber, a couple got in his car and the husband was apparently like yelling and screaming at his wife. And he's like, as a driver, I'm supposed to intervene. I guess what he's saying is driving for Uber is super crazy. And I'm sure that it is. Listen, whenever I get in an Uber, if I'm in DC or I'm in New York or wherever I am, particularly when I was doing Sirius XM, and I didn't get off the air till midnight. So oftentimes I wasn't getting into the Uber until like 1 a.m. And I would see a female driver. I would often think to myself that, this is pretty risky what you're doing.
Exactly.
Because because the bottom line is it only takes one bad actor. And then once the job is done, it's done. Then the cops got to find them.
But yet you got in the car with Uber male drivers. So you were, both sides are taking a risk. When you have one sick, perverted person, that person is responsible for their activity. But that's why it's so important. I know that they just recently changed the Uber laws, or the rules, I guess you'd say, to where before they could only, have arbitration between Uber customers, passengers, and Uber. Now they have finally changed their written agreement to where these women can actually sue in court. They were letting these guys off pretty easy. Well, I'm hoping this new arbitration that just came through will help to stop, at least make them think.
Now, what do you mean? Explain what you mean by wait a minute, I have to mention this. My friend of 20 years, we've been friends for, I can't believe it's been that long. And we're only 29, and we've been friends for 20 years. It's amazing. But my friend, I know, right? My friend Donna in the chat says she was hitting on her 26-year-old Uber driver, because he was handsome, and I darn sure didn't expect to get raped.
Right.
Well, I mean, see, now I'm not that bold. Okay, if I was alone, I'm gonna amend that so I don't get struck by lightning. I'm not. I'm not that. Like, if me and my sister were hanging out, I'm not gonna say that I may or may not have complimented a gentleman on his on what God blessed him with. At some point in time.
That doesn't mean that you want to take it to the next step. It
Of
just
course
means you're
not.
giving him a nice compliment.
Exactly. Those are two different things. But you know, Donna's exactly right. You know, she's probably clowning around, kidding around. Oh, you know, you're cute, whatever. It's completely different from getting sexually assaulted. But I want to go back to what you said about the arbitration. I didn't know that there was like a system by which they couldn't. I'm sure it's probably in that thing when you click I agree that no one ever reads. When you're writing, was there a time when you could not sue for that kind of thing?
Okay, I'm just going to read what this Times article says. In a blog post, Uber said anyone's bringing, quote, okay, in a blog post, Uber said anyone bringing a sexual assault or harassment claim against the company would not be forced into arbitration, and this is me saying this as they were before. They can pursue the matter in court. Before, they couldn't even pursue it in court because there was a non-disclosure agreement that they had signed.
Whoa. Okay, so nobody.
This is just you know, thanks to my friend Eden, I was just getting this information. It's hot off the wire, May 15th. So this is something that this has forced. I think the point is, as more of us are talking about these issues, and I'm just not talking about the Me Too issue, I'm talking about all of these sexual abuse issues. As we're discussing it, it's going to bring it to the forefront. It's going to make people stop and think. As you were talking there about, you know, oh, you might have made a comment about a gentleman's God-given gifts. You know what came to my mind, Melanie?
Yes.
The whole Me Too argument. Now that you're going to have some guy coming to you and saying, well, why can you say that, but I can't make a comment on a woman's breast or on her behind? We all have to be more cognizant of what we're saying to other people. And I hate that. I really do, because, you know, it's the way that it will be interpreted is what we have to look at.
Now, because I'm involved in so much, and I'm a public figure, I want to make sure that I make something abundantly clear.
Exactly.
When I say complimenting a gentleman on his blessings, I don't mean body parts. I don't mean like what men do. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cast aspersions on all men. I don't mean what some men do. I mean like, oh goodness, you're fine. Something like that. I don't mean exactly. I don't mean, talking about things you shouldn't be discussing if you're a lady. Put it that way, which I am.
Exactly. and that's why I brought that up, because the way that can be interpreted is both ways. So we have to be real cognizant of what we're saying. But going forward, I'm going to take it a step further, okay? You know my story. You know my father was never accused of what he did. He was never even, because of the fear that he had and all of his family, nothing was ever done to him.
Right.
We live in a different age now. We now have people in Washington, people in important places are listening, and they're saying, oh, well, maybe this isn't right. Maybe we need to pay attention to these Uber riders. I don't care if they're drunk, or these riders, excuse me. I don't care if they're drunk. They need to be listened to. We need to listen to these, children when they say the man at the playground touched me wrong. Well, he wasn't just pushing you on a swing. He was hurting you. So we need to start paying attention to that. I think we're starting to get that ear now. By this change in the Uber arbitration to now being able to file a lawsuit, we're getting the ear. And my goal now is going to be taking it to the next level. Okay, what can we do about it? We got your attention. Now, what are we going to do about it?
Yeah, that's a good question. I want to under the what are we going to do about it? I can't wait to talk to you about this. I've been having these discussions with men that I trust, good Christian men that I know have good hearts. Okay.
Yes.
But I feel like, and I've expressed this to them as well, that anytime a woman brings up any of this kind of thing, that they're perceived, I actually did a video about it a few days ago, that they're perceived as bashing men. Like, I feel like when I'm done, when anybody, any of those, that group, like, plays this podcast and figures out what it's about, like, I'm probably going to get an inbox message like, are you bashing men again? Why, like, you're talking about, like, bad stuff that men do again. And I'm just wondering, like, what your thoughts are on that.
I think my answer to that person would be no, I'm not bashing men. I'm not bashing men in general. It's nice to give a woman a compliment. If I'm dressed nicely and somebody likes the new outfit I have on or the way my hair looks, I like to be given compliments. Everybody does. That's human. But when you take it to the next step of touching that person or groping that person, or in a case whenever I was, I remember when I worked for somebody when I was 18 years old, his comment to me was, gee, I'm kind of tired. You want to take a nap? I mean, just that kind of thing is past the point of just being complimentary. And that's what women are saying now. And that's what everyone is saying now is just, don't take it to the next step to where you are degrading that person's not personality. What am I trying to say? Their dignity. You're degrading their dignity by making them a body part.
I agree, but I also feel like that there are men, and I've been told this, that feel like there's this that the there's definitely some arguments to be made about the Me Too movement being anti-men. That there's extremists in every organization. There's extremists in every movement, so you do have some extremists in that movement. But the sense that I get from some of my closest friends is that they take offense to any mention of that, and I'm going to be frank and tell you that I find it dismissive. Like I don't. That's not something that I like. I'm like, if so many, the statistics are staggering. And if a woman wants to talk about it, you should not try to shut that down. You're basically telling her to be quiet. And to me, that is also part of the problem.
That's the biggest problem. The stigma that has always been there is now gone, okay? It's now okay to talk about, I don't feel comfortable with what you've done. I don't feel comfortable with what you're doing. And that's where, the good old, I hate to say good old boy, but the good old boy mentality of, oh, I'm just playing around. If a person is offended, then it's not okay. If this gentleman would say something that he would not say to his mother, to his sister, to his wife, to his daughter, then it probably is going to be offensive.
Right.
Why put yourself in that situation? Why put her in that situation? And that, she will eventually, if you keep pursuing that, she will eventually take it to the next step because you need to stop. And it's okay to say, I don't like what you're saying to me.
Right.
But if they're doing something, obviously, they're touching you in a wrong way, then there is nothing wrong at all with speaking out. That's what, everyone has that right.
I agree with you. I certainly agree with you. And it happens to men too, but men are just not prone to talk about it. There's some very, very aggressive women out here. I think Donna might be one of them. I'm kidding. I'm just messing with my friend Donna. No, but no, there's some very aggressive women out here that I suspect their mentality is, he's a man, he's not going to mind if I touch him, however I want. Yeah, and that is certainly not cool either. On the other side,
those women aren't doing the rest of us a favor. Those women are not doing the rest of us a favor.
Absolutely. We're going to take a break, but on the other side of the break, I want to talk about some of the other comments in the chat. Donna mentioned that she's afraid for her nephews because the line is so thin. It's hard to figure out where the line is. And I tend to, oh my gosh, and I tend to agree with her on it. I have 2 nephews. I have a brother. I think about those things as well. So I would love to get your take on it. And if you have any advice on how to keep yourself safe in an Uber, I'd love to hear that too.
Okay.
You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette. We have Laura Vivian on the show today. We're talking Uber dollars and cents. And I would be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to the one and only Mr. Ron Edwards, who just showed up in the chat. So glad to see you, darling. And we will be back in a few moments.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show. Also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com. And maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcast. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
Guest behind headlines, occupy California. Mere 2 miles from the state capital, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Sullivan Radio Show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad.
When dirty politicians, shadow governments, and deceptive Islam blind the world with extreme media smoke, their only fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave. Join me through shrmedia.com, highplaintalkradio.com, and the Western Free Radio Network at Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes for a different perspective weekly on the Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EVL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's no surrender ever, because truth is not always pleasant.
Hey guys, it's Sackhead Clint. I'm excited to tell you about a brand new show here on the SHR Media Network. I'm teaming up with the one and only all-powerful, the bloviating Zeppelin, sitting here to my left, bringing to you a fresh new show here on the network. It's Against Tyranny, and we'll be picking up where the Sackheads left off. Excited to be with you, sir.
Sackheads Against Tyranny.
We're going to chat. We're going to chat Wednesday nights. Sackheads Against Tyranny.
Wednesday night, 11 p.m. Oh, it's the same time, right? 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific.
Same SAC time, same SAC channel.
SHRmedia.com.
See what I did there?
It's business over here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
By race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
Hey, this is Mike. Shannon. Join us for the way with Shannon and Mike Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
Welcome back. You are listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette. My guest today is Laura Vivian, and she talks Uber, dollars, and cents. And we were discussing the fact that 103 Uber drivers have been accused of sexual assault. Why are we discussing this? The reason why we're discussing this is because Uber is a $70 billion business. It operates in 630 cities worldwide, and it provides 15 million rides a day. But 103 of the drivers are being accused of sexual assault. And Laura just told us, which I had no idea, and Donna in the chat said the same, had no idea that when you signed up for Uber, there at one point you signed a non-disclosure agreement not to sue if something happens, and that has just changed. That's crazy. Sorry.
That's what I say. Yes, it is crazy.
And you know, exactly. That's completely nuts. And yeah, that's just not. But before the break, I had asked you. Oh goodness! Here, Ron Edwards says women sexually assault too. Yeah, there's a bunch of men cowering a corner because I'm so handsy. Like, come on! Like, you're 6 foot. You're 6'2", like 250. Whatever I did to you, you let me, buddy. Trust. I'm kidding. I'm joking. But yes, they do, Ron. They do. But in comparison, statistically, it's like, you know, the chance of seeing a unicorn. It is just not that often. I'm just saying. But if for no other reason, then we're not physically able. I'm just saying. Now, men sexually assaulting other men is a whole nother, whole nother topic. But that's, men doing what they do. Now I'm really just teasing Ron. But getting back to what we were talking about, Laura, before the break, I was saying that a couple of the comments in the chat, Donna said that she was concerned about, her nephews, and I was saying that I have nephews as well, and I have a brother, and it is something that I'm concerned about, any of them ever being falsely accused. Is there any way that they can safely avoid that, particularly like in an Uber situation? I'm thinking, what if there is a woman driver and they're being picked up by an Uber and they're accused falsely of, going too far, being handsy, or doing something? Like, are there any rules of the road, so to speak, when you're in this situation?
I didn't know until I started looking into this further that Uber actually has a rating program, but it's not just a rating program of the drivers, it's also of the passengers. So supposing that lady's nephew was an Uber driver, what he would do at the end of that,
I'm sorry, are you still there?
Forward
go ahead.
Remarks, and he felt, like, oh gosh, if I was that kind of person, I could probably really do some damage here. Then he would do a report on there. Now, the women and men that ride in the Uber can look at these ratings. Not only are you rating the rider or the driver is also rating you. But I also, on the Uber website, I looked at ways that you can actually protect yourself. And some of these are kind of common things, like planning ahead, think about where you're headed, review safety features in the app, request a ride inside, don't stand outside when you're waiting for the Uber driver, wait indoors until the app shows that your driver's arrived, make sure you're in the right car, again, common sense, that, make sure the license plate, driver photo, and driver name match what's listed in the app. Be a backseat driver, don't sit up front.
Yeah, Kevin mentioned that. Now, you know what's hard about a couple of those things that they said? Like, particularly in places like New York City. I get Uber in New York City all the time when I'm up there. First of all, if you've ever been in New York City, you know that the traffic is a little busy, and there's tons of cars with Uber symbols, like all over the place. You know what I mean? And if it's at night or something like that, it's hard to tell what color the car is. I usually will open the door, and then if they say my name, then I know it's my Uber. And a lot of times I'll call first, but it's very hard. And then also in the city, what some Uber drivers will do, and I usually just cancel it and pay the $5 because I don't play that. Sometimes they'll tell you that you need to not meet like at the place. Exactly, Kevin. Sometimes Kevin said if you're single, sit behind the driver. I've always sat behind the driver. I don't play that. But sometimes what Uber will do is say, we can't pick you up at your pickup location. Like, can you walk, 2 or 3 blocks down to this location? And I'm like, no, I cannot. Cancel. because that sounds shady to me. That sounds crazy. Does that sound crazy and like unsafe to you? What else do they have?
Exactly.
What else do they have?
That's one of these comments on here. It says, follow your intuition. Trust your instincts and use your best judgment when riding with Uber. And if you feel you're in an emergency situation, call 911. One of these I didn't know about. It says, share your trip details with a friend. While en route, tap share status in the app to share your driver's name, photo, license plate, and location with a friend or family member. They can track your trip and see your ETA without downloading the Uber app. I never knew that.
Oh, I didn't know that either. That's good stuff.
That's good to know.
I'm going to have to do that.
Yeah, but mainly it says, give feedback on your trip. And if you feel like something's not right, then just tell them to pull over. And if they don't pull over, call 911. You've got your phone. Call 911. You do not have to stay in that car.
Yeah.
But I think the problem is, here's going back to our original conversation, is you have inebriated people. And these people aren't thinking straight anyway.
Exactly.
All they know is they want to go home and go to bed.
Exactly.
There's a story on there about a woman in California, I believe it was, in the CNN report, that had actually, the driver had taken her home. She got out of the car and she went to her bedroom and passed out. The next morning she woke up and her clothes are on the floor. She had been raped. And this driver, they did track it back, with the rape kit and things. They tracked it back to that driver. So again, you can't avoid 100% of it, but you can speak up. And the more that we speak up, I honestly believe the more that we speak up about any kind of abuse is going to deter some of these people from at least trying some of it. It's gonna make them aware that we're not being quiet anymore. It's like me with my discussions about child abuse. I tell everyone, you've got to speak up. If you don't speak up, it's going to continue because they're getting away with it. Don't let them get away with it.
And that's exactly. And that's my conflict that I have that I was telling you about earlier, is that so many go unreported. So many assaults go unreported. And many times, in many situations, in the churches, there's all kinds of abuse. As children, there's all kinds of abuse. And everyone tells the victim to be quiet.
Right.
And that's the problem. Like, that's the problem. And that's the problem that I have when, like, somebody, says, like, anything remotely. It's like, don't man bash. It's like, I'm not man bashing. Like, I'm just saying, like, that was not awesome. Like that was a really bad situation that particular guy did. But Ron Edwards, who has a heart of gold, and I absolutely adore, who does the Ron Edwards notebook, by the way. I think his show is every single day before my show now. It's either every single day or Friday at 4 o'clock. I got to plug that real fast, because if you like the Ron Edwards notebook, you will love the Ron Edwards experience. I'm just saying. But Ron Edwards in the chat says that he hopes they put the raper behind bars for a long, long time. Well, Ron Edwards, there's 103 drivers, not just one, being accused of rape. And now they have 15 million around the world, rides around the world. And I was saying before we got on the air, I was saying to Laura, I said, well, it's like statistically, it's like a plane crash. It happens rarely, but when it does, one is too many. That's the problem. Right. One is too many, and that person's life is forever changed. It will never be the same. Exactly. Ever, 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 ever.
And I wrote my book, This Should Never Have Happened, and then it's also thisshouldneverhavehappened.com. But in the book, I say that, it used to be a be quiet society we're not going to be quiet anymore. And I'm sorry that some people are upset about that. But the ones that are upset are there's a good possibility that those are the very ones that need to hear our message, that you can't do this anymore. It's not going to be accepted. You will be found out. You will be prosecuted.
It's true. And, I asked a group of my, some male friends that I have, we were in an online chat, and I asked them, I'm like, dude, like, all these statistics are sky high, and yet, like, none of my guy friends, and I have tons of them, know anybody who's ever done that. I said, statistically, that makes no sense. And what my friend said was, he's like, Melanie, he's like, I'm going to be totally honest with you. He's like, it's guy code. He said, it's like anything else that men do in secret. He's like, do you really think that guys who look at porn talk to each other about the porn that they watch? He's like, we don't discuss that ever. No. He said, so my guy friends that do that or probably have done that, he's like, I would never know, because that's not something that they would ever talk about. And I just kind of fell back in my chair.
No one would ever have suspected my father. Nobody would have ever suspected this well-dressed, well-kept man of the uptown that, nice home, nice cars. It's not the ones you suspect. It's the ones you least suspect in many cases. And that's why it needs to be discussed. It needs to be brought out in the open so that people won't be afraid to discuss it.
Exactly. Tell my audience before we go where to get the book and how they can get in touch with you to speak, because you're awesome.
Thank you. I like you too. The name of the book again is This Should Never Have Happened, and the website is by the same name, thisshouldneverhavehappened.com. You can order it there, or you can also get it through Amazon or barnesandnoble.com. And if you happen to go to Amazon and put a nice little review on that, I'd appreciate that too. But it is, it's a hard read, because it's told from my voice from the ages of 3 to 18, and the memories that I had. But yet it's a quick read, and it's something that everybody has to realize that this is happening. That is my mission, is to say that, I want to make a change. I want it to stop. I want to stop the abuse.
Exactly. And we would be remiss before we go if we didn't give a shout out to our mutual homegirl, Eden Gordon Hill. Hi, Eden.
Oh, yeah. Hi, Eden.
All right. Thank you so much for being on the show. Again, I hope to have you back real soon. I want to say thank you to everybody in the Facey chat. You guys completely and totally rock. Fantastic comments and questions. If you're listening to this on SHR Media and High Plains Planet Talk Radio, thank you. If you have downloaded this as a podcast and are listening, thank you. I do appreciate taking up your time. I honestly do. I'm privileged. Eden Gordon Hill says we did a great job. So now I know we did a good job. I want you all to remember that this is absolutely important, because after all, it's your money. Have a great night.
Thanks, Melanie.
You're welcome.